Hello, friends. We truly get to know a person only when we separate from them. This applies to both personal relationships and business partnerships. Today, I mentally return to one of the hardest periods of my life, the year 2016 through 2018, a time when I made a terrible mistake in business, a mistake that cost me money, my health, and almost myself. Now, in 2025, of course, I have my own set of rules that I strictly follow, especially in how I interact with people. I have my code of conduct and I follow it. I can handle many things, but I was completely defenseless back then, unable to resist harsh manipulation, abuse, and the crushing sense of guilt that was placed on me. Even now, because of my nature, I find it hard to resist people like that. That's why I choose the only correct path for myself. If I feel even the slightest discomfort in communication, I immediately stop all interactions. This rule is sacred to me, though I wish I hadn't had learned it through the pain. All my life, I have worked for myself. I was the master of my time, my business, my freedom. But in 2016, something happened that broke me. It didn't just break me, it destroyed me. My friend, who had managed my company in St. Petersburg and whom I trusted deeply for many years, suddenly passed away. And at his funeral, by some cruel coincidence, I met our mutual childhood friend. In September 2016, I returned to Chicago and sank into deep sorrow and depression. My days felt gray and meaningless. I wanted nothing. I even thought of giving everything up and closing my business entirely. At that moment, that childhood friend called me and said, "Oksana, don't give up. I will help you." For many months, he gave me psychological support. We spoke for hours every day, talking about our childhood, about our mutual friend. Without realizing it, I came out of my deepest depression. But as soon as I emerged, I made a mistake. I sold 50% of my Russian company for almost nothing. Together, we quickly increased the company's turnover, bought an expensive license, and moved confidently from a small business to a mid-sized one. To be fair, my partner was technically skilled. Everything related to websites, technical support, online promotion, he was a pro. I trusted him completely, and for months I closed my eyes for many things. First of all, he replaced key staff. My accountant was replaced by his mother. Couriers who handled money and documents were replaced by his father. He terminated contracts with companies that had managed our social media. He replaced my niche CRM and phone systems with kind of trusted systems which were completely unsuitable for the travel business. He was firing people without paying them. And he gradually began to control my personal expenses on food and transportation during my business trips, while increasing his own expenses two or threefold. And as a culmination, he created unbearable conditions for our managers who had been working for me for 5, 7 years. This led to a complete staff turnover. Employees left in tears, and nervous breakdowns without getting paid. He created such unbearable physical conditions that staying was impossible. The situation was worsened by the fact that he was in St. Petersburg and I was far away in Chicago. So, of course, I didn't see many things until they hit me directly. He even introduced a punishment system for me. He stopped sending me money to the US on time, constantly creating cash gaps. And the amounts were not small, $10,000, $30,000 per transaction. When I asked why he was delaying the transfers, I needed this money to book hotels and transport and travel services, he replied, think about your behavior. And one day he asked me to sell him 50% of my American company. When I refused, hell entered my life. My business partner instantly turned into an abuser who destroyed me morally day after day. And then I finally realized he was the real wolf in the sheep clothing. He broke agreements. He constantly changed tactics. He manipulated my mind. He blamed me for all company's problems. I had to wait every word before speaking. He recorded conversations, photographed me, and documented every step, and hung so many labels on me that I gave up. I gave up and admitted to myself that I was nothing. My former confidence was gone without a trace. I lost money. My nervous system was completely destroyed. Every night I woke up with bleeding nose. That's how emotionally difficult it was for me. Most often, people who are skillful manipulators haven't achieved much in life. They are deeply traumatized people who live permanently in a victim state, creating situations where you feel obligated to them for life. Such people load you with so many obligations that you cannot refuse, because refusal leads to an even worse situation, a crushing sense of guilt. I felt like a complete trash. I was defenseless, vulnerable, and weak. And it was during this period when I started to drink. The amount of wine and champagne was enormous. Do I feel ashamed? No. But what I feel is fear. Oh my God. How I'm scared. Sometimes when I look back, I think it wasn't me. All this disaster was happening with someone else. It would take me many more years before I fully realized how low I had fallen, before I came to God and fully healed from a habit I had carried for many years. During the hardest moments, I was asking for hugs and support, but I was receiving many bottles of wine. Life gave me so many lessons until one evening I understood that I wanted to live at the highest level of awareness, and that wine was no longer my path. I went outside of my house, looked at the full moon and said myself, Oksana, my dear, you create your own happiness and make your own choices. Sometimes, even now, I am gripped by fear when I remember the amount of alcohol I drank. Tears streamed down my face. I have a wonderful son, and for his future and for my own, I will never return to the past. I will never betray myself again. I will never lie to myself. I will never exchange a quiet evening with a book on a soft carpet for questionable nights with alcohol. There is no stronger person than one who has conquered themselves. The most interesting part is that I didn't fight alcohol. I just one day simply decided this is not for me. And it became so easy. Everything became so easy. My life finally became so easy. I lost my business again. It was the second time. I deliberately chose not to renew the license. I stepped aside and I stopped fighting. I erased my partner from my life as he has never existed. By 2018, I was left with debts, but by 2019, I had completely recovered, bringing my American company to the top and making it the leading operator for Russian-speaking tourists in the United States. Now, in 2025, I understand that it was the right decision. Stop fighting. Fighting takes too much strength and energy, and it's not worth it. I stepped aside, finally laying my Russian business to rest, and I asked myself one simple question: where did I make a mistake? The answer was both clear and painful. I chose the wrong partner. When your values, your ethics, and your very sense of humanity stand on opposite sides, nothing good can come from it. Such a partnership can't bring growth or trust, only exhaustion, pain, and the loss of faith. I gained experience for sure, but I completely broke my business code of conduct with customers, with suppliers, with employees, and it took me years to come back to the road where I cannot afford anything but taking the high road of ethical behavior. All my life I was fighting with something or somebody. I am so tired of it. The world will stand. The trees will grow. The politicians will play games. It's unchangeable. But what I can change is my attitude, my mindset. I will never be a part of the crowd, but I will always be myself. And I will stay loyal in what I believe and what is right for me. There is no point in fighting systems, people, or circumstances. You cannot defeat what doesn't align with your own values. The only thing you can do is to live in truth, to live in harmony with yourself, to admire the leaves as they change color, to climb Machu Picchu with the one you love most, to open your heart without fear, to revel in the feeling that you owe nothing to anyone, to choose your own circle and your own people, to wake up and say to yourself, I am happy.